Definitely hit that channel today. I don't know how I ended up managing that. Um, but now let's see. Yes, maybe. It looks like I'm live maybe now. Yes, I am live on the right channel on YouTube. Whoopsie. Okay, so anyway, to back up a little bit. Whoopsie. Um, Gotta get back in the groove of things. Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning. So I had been alluding that that something was coming up. That there was an opportunity for me and I'd be able to make some really good content from it, but I didn't get very specific. And so I sent out an email that was a little bit more specific, but didn't say where I was going. I just said something was coming up. And then I did send out another email that was more specific to some people that I was going to Israel. And I didn't say when, I didn't say exactly where, and all the stuff that we'd be doing because I just didn't want like all that info out there. Just for like safety concerns and reasons and things like that. And when I had agreed to go on this trip, the ceasefire hadn't even happened yet. And I was just, trying to be safe with myself and stuff. So um now that I'm back from Israel and I got to spend a whole week there, I wanted to talk about what I learned. I will be going into more detail um later. So here's my plan. I want to tell you my plan because I'm not gonna. I have like a ton of pictures. I have videos and stuff. I'm not gonna play like all that stuff today. I'll like show a couple pictures, but talk about the gist of some things, and like just things that I've learned and relating that to some things I hear politically, because some of the things that people say politically about the Middle Eastern politics, and particularly I guess Israeli politics and things like that, just don't make any sense, especially like I didn't think a lot of it made any sense before anyway, but actually going there, seeing people on the ground, meeting people, talking to, people who had been kidnapped, people who survived October the 7th, talking to a colonel and the IDF, talking to security experts, talking to, soldiers, and seeing, gosh, they're just babies. They're so young. Just seeing it just puts things into a whole new perspective as well. So I want to talk about some of those things, but as far as my plan for like showing more of the content, my plan is to do different blogs just detailing the different days, so we don't have like incredibly long videos of each thing that happened. um you know um I just think it'll be better in different bites, for me kind of arranging my thoughts and sharing the stuff and people like watching it. So there should be enough for like 7 episodes for the 7 days that I was there. And that's how I'm going to lay it out. So I'm going to try to like have that out starting out like next week. There's a lot of things to get through, a lot of things to film, and I just haven't had time to put that all together yet. And so that's what I'll be working on the next couple days and throughout the weekend and stuff, and start to like roll that out Monday, day 1 in Israel, day 2 in Israel, day 3 in Israel and stuff. So we visited a lot of biblical sites. Gosh, I didn't even know the city of David was a thing. It's like an excavation site. They're like, we're going to the city of David. I'm like, this is the palace. I'm like, oh my gosh. And we got to go like in like deeper into like the excavation site, like in the, I guess, the mine where they're like, you can see the where they like dig up the dirt and all kinds of stuff, and going and to the seeing all these sites where they had ritual like cleansing, and the original road that Jesus would have walked on, and it just incredible things, and the different people who were working at the different sites talking about the different biblical evidence that they found to verify the different sites, just things that were just really mind-blowing. The sites were so stunning. Walking through the Garden of Gethsemane and just praying in a place that, Jesus prayed. It was funny because everybody talked about, having more compassion for the disciples, because at that point we had been there a few days, and we had walked so much and got so many places, and it's, mountains and valleys, um and some steep hills, that are just crazy. And we're like, we're already tired. And think about all the stuff the disciples had to do around that time. And Jesus like, y'all can't even stay up and pray with me for an hour. And it's like, we tired right now. So, but I always had that view, like feeling bad for the disciples. Cause I'm like, I've definitely like fallen asleep during some family prayer time. So, they had such a busy day already, like going all these different places. I'm like, I probably would have maybe fell asleep in that garden too, So, um, we went to like the tomb of where they believe that Jesus was crucified, where they believe Peter's house was, synagogues where it's likely that Jesus would have preached in, markets where it's likely that the disciples would have sold fish at. Um, we went to the Western Wall, and the day we went to the Western Wall was on Friday. So there was a time when they're like, okay, put your phones away to like respect everybody that's there. But we got there just before sundown. So I did take some photos of that. But um after the sun went down, we did I took time to pray, and you can also like write down your prayers in leave them like in the wall, and they won't take them down, but they do eventually take them down like every 2 years, and then they like bury them in the Mount of Olives, which we went there too. We went on the Sea of Galilee, and oh my gosh, it was such a beautiful experience. I got baptized in the River Jordan, and but that was the day I got baptized in the river. That was the day we also went on the boat ride to Sea of Galilee, and that was an amazing experience, all in its own. That's really worth talking about. But oh my god, it was just really incredible. And then we also were staying in Magdala, um for Mary Magdalene, that's where she was from. That's why she has that name. And we that the hotel was also an excavation site. And so they had a 2,000-year-old road there, and they had like a church there, and off to the part of the church there was like the side room that had a piano in there, and some of us could play instruments, not me. But someone got on the keyboard, and we all just praising and worshiping God together, and praying for one another. And it was just a really amazing experience. I was so glad to go with like other evangelicals. And um I guess everyone was an evangelical except for that opinionated girl, who, if you're on TikTok, you may know her. She does a lot of she does conservative content, but she does a lot of pro-Israel content. Man, there's a lot of people who really hate her. But she was so sweet and bubbly, and you just always smiling, and very, uh, deeply emotionally connected. She went to the Noah Festival, and site, and she was just so emotional, and she had a really sweet countenance about her, Maddie. And it was really just something, because she's kind of so stiff when she delivers her lines and stuff on TikTok. But she was just so, just kind of, like I said, sweet and bubbly. But she's Catholic, and the rest of us are like, evangelicals and stuff. So but we just had an amazing time with one another. So um people kept saying stuff like at this other conference I was at before I went to Israel, that if you can go to Israel, seeing these biblical sites come to life, it's just really an incredible experience. And they weren't exaggerating, like just going these places knowing like, man, Jesus walked this road, or and it just I don't know, just really made the stories come to life more. um just made everything just kind of have a deeper meaning. And we had some good prayers, some good music, and worship and stuff. I started to get sick. You could hear it in my voice. I'm like, yes. Oh, you're probably like, oh, Christine, you're sick again. Yes, I got sick again. And it's funny because last time I went out of the country, I haven't been like out of the country since I was like in the 10th grade. I went to the Philippines on a on a mission trip, and I too also got a cold on the equator, believe it or not. But for me, knowing me and my colds, you guys are probably like, I totally believe that, Christina. But yeah, I started to get sick, and there are other people who brought like a guitar and could sing and stuff. And so when we like were at the um Garden of Gethsemane, we had a no, that wasn't when we were in the garden. Where do we have a we had the that was the tomb. Went to like the tomb site. We had like a special area where we had communion, and we did praise and worship and stuff. And so and there was some singing and stuff on the bus and other opportunities. And so when we were out on the Sea of Galilee, it was funny when we got on the boat. They raised an American flag, and we're like, oh, they were ready for us. So they played the Star Spangled Banner, and I was prepared to sing if I had to, but they had the music going or whatever. And then they had some worship music that they started playing, and they started playing. I don't know if CC Winans is a creator of the song, but I heard CC Winans sing it. But CC Winans, it was a different person singing it though. But it's the goodness. It's like, I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand from the moment that I wake up till I lay my head. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. So that song was playing, and I was just praising God and just sobbing. And that song had gotten to me before, like in the past, like before, prior to my mom passing away. But I don't know, everything just hit me, like being there, being able to go there, because it was just kind of rough for just a lot of outside reasons to even get there. Uh, but just being there on the Sea of Galilee, where all these beautiful things have happened. It just all really came together and really hit me hard. And then after that, they're like, "Does anyone want to sing a song?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I can sing." And and I'm like, "I could do." And then I had trouble like trying to pick a song, especially like a group song everybody might know. I mean, there's a lot of worship songs that everybody knows, but my mind was just kind of drawing a blank. And I was like, well, I guess I could do Oceans. And they're like, no, we can play Oceans, because I guess they had that ready to go on the playlist. And so I was like, man, okay, I hope I can get through this song without crying. And I started singing I Trust in God. And that's a really popular song. It's like, I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. And it's a really good song. And everybody joined in, and they were singing, and we were just praising God. It was just an amazing experience. And I wasn't like, at this point I was sick, and I didn't even sound like 100, but I was just giving it my all. And then after that, like, Christina, where have you been? Like, where have you been hiding? And I'm like, I've been singing harmony with y'all the whole time. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I wasn't hiding, but I'm not like a showy person to just burst on the scene like, hey, I can sing. Like, I when, like, if there's a karaoke like party or something, I'll be like, yeah, I want to do that. But I'm just not like there to, you know, that's just not me. I'm really introverted, and you know, so I just, waited till it was kind of my time, I guess. And they're like, that was so anointed, that was so wonderful. Like, oh my gosh, Christina. And and then I told some of the people, I'm like, that was the first song we sang in church after my mom died. And then I just started bawling. And and people like came around me, was praying for me. So it was in And someone was like, I just feel the Lord, just looking down on you and just smiling, and that he's well pleased with you and stuff. So it was just a really beautiful spiritual experience going there. It's crazy to me that there's people who don't believe that anything in the Bible is real, or that the people there. I've heard atheists say that there's nobody that's real in the Bible. It's just so historically inaccurate. There are people who used to believe that David like wasn't a real person, or there wasn't actually a King David, and extra biblical evidence was found. The Dan Stella, the Tildan Stella or something like that, some time ago was found, where there was like an enemy of the Israelites that was like talking about how they had defeated, them and stuff, the children of David, or something along those lines. So that's extra biblical evidence that proves like, hey, these people actually existed. There was, a kingdom there of Israel, and David was a real person, and David was a real king. But it's just crazy to think about that, people were denying this type of stuff. And so from a certain point, like people have accepted that things about it are true, and then there's some things that they don't have evidence for, like I guess prior to that people are still up in the air whether people believe it's true or not, because there's not like a lot of like biblical sort of evidence for it. But it was just amazing to me. Again, I didn't know that there was a site in Israel for like the city of David, and they were excavating all that stuff. And so much stuff has been excavated recently, like since like 2003, like just a ton of stuff that they've been doing, and they're excavating very fast that particular site. And in the future, they're saying that Israel's probably going to be just the biggest suspended like city in the world, because so much of it is being excavated all the time. So I was just blown away by just so many of the like the biblical sites that we went to. But it wasn't all just like biblical sites that we went to, even though that we went with a Christian group. Um so we also went to the Nova Festival site, and I haven't heard this from people, but I guess some of the critics and conspiracy people say that the festival was switched like to that site, and people believe that it's like right on the border, and that it's some kind of conspiracy, I guess, for as if the Israeli government was on the inside of it and wanted the terrorists to come into that site. I haven't talked to anybody with that theory, but someone was like saying that they've dealt with people who had that sort of theory, and they were unfamiliar with. I guess they just believe that was right on the border. If you look on a map, it doesn't look that far from the border, but it's not that close to the border. And so just different things like that being on the ground, you know, gives you a different perspective of stuff. Now, we were in some kibbutzes that were way very close to the border that were attacked. And the man who was like telling us about that day, he just says he's lucky to be alive. And his sis there were terrorists in his sister's house, and she was like in a safe room, and she just happened to survive by the skin of her teeth. And he was like, "Why have a gun? Like I can go like try to help my sister." And his wife was like, "You better not go. Like they're gonna kill you. Like what are you gonna do?" And so after we talked to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, and there's her house." It's like that house is just like around like down the street. Like y'all was for real in danger. And we're going around, we're walking around the neighborhood, and there's all these like bullet holes and things like that. And they took us to an area where Hamas had like taken over a police station. And when we talked, we ended up going to the IDF and talking to them, and they were talking about how there was a security failure, and there's investigations, and there's a lot of criticism, like asking questions like, well, why did it take 6 hours? And we're like, yeah, why did it take 6 hours? So we were asking them like challenging questions, even though we were more sympathetic to their side. But our attitude, especially like one of the people there, Jason, his attitude was like, people are gonna question like, well, you had the opportunity to talk to them, you didn't ask them this, and that. So he ask them questions, even if he knew the answers to them, he wanted to hear it from them. So they started just breaking down like all the things they did that day, that there was like a over 100 spots that they hit. Like it wasn't just the Nova Festival and like a kibbutz or two. That there was a lot of spaces that they hit, and there was like I think they said like 5,000 people across the border that day. So um that they had been, people had been training, preparing for that day. They had people who come in from Gaza to Israel to work and every day, and they were gathering intel to feed that back for those kinds of operations. There was a story, I don't know if we covered it or not. I think we covered it a little bit, and then there was an update in the story. Um, in Dearborn, there was an arrest. Yeah, we did cover it on the show. Um, of some people who were planning like an attack on Halloween, and they got thwarted. But one of the masterminds, like trying to come up with the attack, was someone who participated in October the 7th, and then came over here like under the Biden admin. And I'm like, why did we even allow people in that area to come over like that? That's insane to me. Um, so once they started, and then it was on a holiday as well, so like a spiritual holiday for them. And so there was just a lot of things. It was still a security failure, but they were attacking by sea and air with paratroopers and on land, and they just were not ready for something of that size. And Jason Bribey's like, okay, well, what about getting a heads up from Egypt, like that something like that was happening? They're like, we get threats like that all the time, and we didn't think that they had the capacity or the means or whatever to pull something like that off. But at the same time, also, it's like, how would we exactly, like, that particular thing is going to be the thing that they actually try to do, because it sounds far-fetched. And once they laid out, you can kind of see like, oh, okay, now I'm understanding why it was such a detrimental time, why it was so difficult for them to get everything together. Not that there still doesn't need to be investigations and other things like that, but um it just kind of starts making more sense about how everything kind of broke down. um I hear my phone going off. Let me it like fell down. um so it was really interesting being able to talk to the IDF, to talk to survivors, to talk to people who were kidnapped. There was one soldier that I talked to. They weren't currently um in the fighting in the they weren't currently enlisted, but everybody's got to enlist, in Israel. And so this person was our driver. We were going riding in jeeps up north, like the Golan Heights and the Syrian border and stuff. And he said that he could forgive people for killing their children, but he can't forgive his enemies for making them kill their children because they're hiding behind them. And it was just really interesting. Sometimes I hear people like um I'll just say Dave Smith or whatever, that they just or Tucker Carlson, and they have this view like Israelis are purposely killing civilians. And that's, if you talk to these people, they're really trying not to do that. Like they really, really don't want to do that. Like they understand like th- that they have to protect their own people, but they really, really don't want to do that. You talk to people higher up in the IDF, they are really trying to minimize as much civilian casualties as possible. Like it's really ingrained with them. Like, and I just know that in the United States of America, I'm not saying that we don't care about civilian casualties, but there's just no way that we would conduct a war like how they're conducting a war, to just minimize as much, going to the lengths that they go. So I think it's unfair how Israel gets treated, because I again, I just don't think that other nations take the steps that they take, with making calls or texts, or dropping the leaflets, doing the roof knocks, because they're alerting people in advance, like, hey, we're about to make this hit or whatever. But you're also like telling Hamas that too, so they're like giving away intel for the sake of you know making sure that they can save as many people as possible. And if they wanted to take out Gaza, maybe just a parking lot, they could do that, but that's not their objective. They want to, it's very, very important for them to get their people back, to get their hostages back. They want Hamas to obviously be disarmed. And they'll do what they have to in order to meet those goals. But yeah, it just really breaks my heart the way that they're mischaracterized, um because they just really, really go to great lengths to not have to end life. They really do. And it's just in their heart to not do that. And they really get I don't know, they're just really painted as villains, and they know that. When the IDF, they opened up their and I don't have any pictures of the IDF presentation, because they're like, don't take pictures of like the soldiers and stuff like that. So I didn't take any photos of like when I was um in the talking to the IDF. I think maybe I don't know, I may have taken one picture of the presentation. I'm not sure. I have to look at my pictures. But they opened up talking about like, why do so many people like hate Israel. And she was giving her different theories, the land disputes, and talked about, there's some religious aspects, there's some of radicalization, and there's some anti-Semitism and stuff. And so I'm listening to her different explanations of it, the spokesperson, and I'm like, mm, it sounds like they don't know what's going on, like, as far as like some of the US stuff that that's happening. So after their presentation, and we were really tired at this time too. Like, we were still like adjusting, and so I was like, everything was so fascinating. But I was like fighting to stay awake. I'm like pinching myself, like with my nail, and just they're all people said I didn't look like I was falling asleep or whatever, but I was like really struggling with all my might just to stay up until we got to the question. We got to the questions, and it was more like a dialogue and a discussion. Then it was like, wait, right away, wide awake. But I let her, finish her presentation and stuff. But when we got to the questions, I asked a question, and then I got into I'm like, okay, I got another question. It's not really a question. It's more like just a commentary, because I'm not sure if you know. In the United States, we have a big problem with Marxist ideology, being ingrained in our universities. And she's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And she was surprised that that's an issue in the United States of America. So I'm like, well, she's really, really not plugged in then, if you don't know that. But and I said, with the Marxist ideology, there is some class warfare sort of stuff, like the eat the rich mentality. We do see that. But a lot of the Marxism that you see in the US is like a cultural sort of Marxism that gets played out with like critical, critical race theory and other things like that. Um, but you see a lot of the dynamics of the oppressed versus the oppressor. And you hear a lot about white privilege and other things like that. And I said, to be honest, they just see you guys, you're like white adjacent, you're privileged, and you're the oppressor, you're the colonizer, and that's how they view you. And I said, that's why immediately after October the 7th, even before like Israel could really like strike back or anything like that, and then war was engaged, um there was immediately, those Harvard students that was basically like, it's Israel's fault. And you had BLM that came out, was taking, these different BLM chapters that were taking Hamas's side, and actually like glorifying the paratrooper image of of the ones that came in through the festival and killed all these people, because that's just how they see the world. And so she was just kind of shaking her head like in like disbelief, and like, well, like, wow, that's really crazy. And You know, it was interesting, I guess, that they were unaware of that. And I don't know how much people in the US, I guess, think about that too. Maybe we know because we're chronically online. You guys are the type of people who listen to podcasts, political podcasts. But this is something that's um shaping a lot of anti-Semitism and a lot of the youth's minds, and they're already voters, right? And they're gonna continue to be voters, and they're gonna replace the baby boomers and all those different folks, and they'll be the ones who are gonna make policy decisions that are gonna end up, affecting our engagement with Israel one day. And so, I just thought, it's something that they should know, and I was glad that I was able to share that information with them. Now, how much they could, change or do anything about that, I don't know, but they should at least be aware of where that's coming from. Um, and we also talked about, like, there are things that Charlie wrote in his letter to Bibi about um, it being hard to find information that's true. When people say different stuff, like in real time, like what's a source so we can go to check and see what's real, what's not, what's with the numbers going on with the warfare, and different, s- you know, because you have the media that's skewing things or just taking the word of like Hamas and so on. Like, where's the real info at? And Charlie complaining like we should not have to dig to find all this stuff. Like, you want to make sure that your sources are good and your intel is good. So if you have to dig, then that's just the reality of the situation. Um, but um, it looks like Facebook is having an issue. Let's see if I can try to reconnect it. I don't know what's up, but um, sorry about that. Let me see. Is anyone on Facebook watching right now? I don't know why it disconnected. Let me check it out real quick. It looks like it stopped. Looked like it stopped. I'm not sure why it stopped on Facebook. Let me try to reconnect. I'm not sure if I can. um, or restart it. I'm not sure that I can. Um, Whoops, sorry about that, Facebook. Oops. So, I'll have my blog videos about the trip. So I don't know why they're having an issue. Why Facebook kicked it. But I don't think I can reconnect while I'm live with the other ones going on YouTube. So I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't go on Twitch. So I apologize about that. I'm not sure about why that happened. But anyway, I think it's important that that they have information that's available and sourced and easy to find for people to combat this stuff. Uh, um and we shouldn't have to scour to find information that's going to help them, cuz Charlie decided to reach out to Bibi to write that letter. It was like 6 pages long. I think it was about 6 pages long, to just how they can improve their information war. And they're very good at what they do as far as fighting Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other different folks. But this intel war is a different kind of war, or PR rather. I'm sure they probably are good with intel gathering and things like that. But as far as their PR, they're struggling. And I don't know how much of it is that, well, they hate us. We don't get it, but we just kind of understand that they do. Um, you know, I don't know why that this kind of been on the back burner, and why they don't understand. There's some of the influencers I was with that got to meet Bibi, and then after they met Bibi Netanyahu, there was an article, and it was like, these Bibi Netanyahu's trying to teach these influencers how to take over the internet or something. And I thought that was an interesting headline. I kind of was laughing. I'm like, I don't think Bibi Netanyahu would know how to do that in the slightest. And they're like, no, he wouldn't. Like, no. They don't get it. They don't know what to do. And that's why Charlie wrote that letter, to try to help them. And Charlie gave really good suggestions. We didn't read the whole thing together. We talked about it certainly when it became public. But if you haven't read it, it was good advice that they should take. And I think that's one of the reasons why Bibi met with influencers, to be proactive about trying to do the PR war. But like, I was a little surprised that they didn't know kind of the source of, um I guess the animosity toward them. And of course there's like Qatar, paying money, funneling money into universities and things like that, and TikTok and how those things go viral. But there is, again, that Marxist, like, oppressor versus oppressed mentality that's really pushed to kind of undermine the West, and all kinds of different stuff. And you have to know about that if you want to win that information war. So I was glad I could pass that information on. But in, I don't know, in some ways they seemed a little naive, um to a lot of the future dangers that could be coming their way, especially if they don't get this part of the battle in order for them. So that was certainly fascinating. Another cool thing, we went to the last day we were there, to like the Golan Heights and stuff, to learn about the dangers in the northern border. And we went to one um like security firm place, and they had us run like a simulation of what to do, like if a ceasefire agreement with like Syria was broken, like what will we do? And they made us like take different roles of like the Israeli government, and we all had to get to read through this briefing packet and decide what scenario would be best and debate about it. And then someone was a prime minister and had to make the decision. It was really neat. And you got to really put yourself in their shoes to see, like, what would you do in those situations, that are going to ultimately be best for the people. Now, the position that I had and the intel that I had and trying to play the role that I had, I ended up coming to the conclusion that I personally didn't want to come to. And like, in real life, everyone was like, military strike. um but and after we were done, they just said, like, well, this kind of scenario, the scenario that we would personally pick, is kind of going on right now, because in Syria there's like a buffer zone on the border, and they're not supposed to have like what different weapons within that area, so they have drones watching. And so they showed us a video footage of like different people like getting different weapons and trying to transport them, and then they see the drone and they get in their car and they're driving, and then the drone like blows it up. So that's that's how they're, protecting their people on the northern border. And after October 7th, they were like terrified that they'd be next. I mean, there were rockets that were shot into Israel that did kill people. But they were concerned about, like, a bunch of people coming over, like what happened in Gaza, and that didn't end up happening. But um, you could really understand the security concerns. I mean, they took us to an area where I could see the fence that was the border of Syria. That's how close we were, and we could see different minefields that were set up, like these yellow signs. There was like, mines, don't cross. And someone was like, "Yep, I've seen boars go over there and get blown up. Like, you don't want to go over there." And we went through like a barrack that was in use like last year. And we're riding around the Jeep, and they're like, "Yeah, if this was a couple months ago, it wouldn't have been safe to do this." So, the amount of danger that they had to face is just incredible. But they're like, "Oh, Israel's really safe." Like, they don't have like pickpocket problems, and I guess a lot of crime or different things like that. But um, they have other dangers, other enemies, and it was just really interesting. I know a lot of people were mocking Douglas Murray when he said his comments about the "you've never been" talking to Dave Smith. And he had been like Gaza, but I don't know if Dave Smith had ever been to Israel, period. And you could obviously have opinions about things if you haven't been there. I mean, obviously I have opinions about Israel and what's going on, and I've never been there. Um, but you do have like a deeper understanding, like if you go there on the ground to talk to people there. Like Dave Smith had said something the other day about um how they're not threatened by Iran. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, you ask the idea of like, what's your threat? They're like, the biggest concern, like that was literally a question that one of us asked a colonel in the IDF, and they're like, it's Iran. It's Iran. And they're still concerned, because you take out their nuclear facilities, they'll just get back to building. They're like cockroaches to survive, like, and keep doing it. They're terror, and funding their terror. They fund a lot of terror for a lot of folks to put money behind these groups, these proxy groups that want to kill Israel. Like, they're aware that it's Iran. So Dave Smith like, they're not really it's of course it is. Of course it is. Who else would it be? Of course. So I don't know. It's just really dumb stuff. Um, and I already talked about the idea of them like, oh, they're just bomb. They don't care if they kill civilians. That's totally not the vibe. That's not what it is. But Dave Smith has said something else that was really, really ridiculous that I'd like to share as well. He was on Trigonometry, and I started watching. I haven't watched the whole thing, but he had said something about how there's an obligation for Israel to put their soldiers in harm's way, um, to save civilian lives, which Israel obviously does. But the lengths that he thinks that they should go to put their soldiers in harm's way to not have civilian casualties is just, I thought, like, way too extreme, especially um when you consider some more of the facts. So let me just play a little bit of this. Hopefully it doesn't get flagged. It's a major show on YouTube and stuff, so maybe it will, but here we go.
I would not find it justified for the American military to start carpet bombing the reservation. No, in fact, I think you would have a responsibility to make this a police action. Like, you have to arrest these people. And before Netanyahu, there was a terrorism problem since the creation of the state of Israel, partially the Zionists and partially the Arabs. But throughout the entire history of Israel, it was only Netanyahu who ever treated the terrorism problem as like a problem for the regular old military. It was always targeted assassinations, special operations. Again, Gaza is the most surveilled area in the world. They can wait these guys out. They can touch them. They can target them. Now, again, it might put IDF soldiers at more risk than sometimes. That's a thing that all modern armies accept, that we will increase the risk to our own guys to fight wars in more moral ways than we have in the past.
The issue is that the police action thing is really what this is all about, right? Because if you see this as a war, I mean, historically speaking, no country at war is required to provide aid to enemy civilians. This never happened.
But I just want to talk about that part right there about the putting the soldiers at risk. Well, they're going to war. I mean, the fact that they're on the ground, as opposed to just like blowing up everything, is already putting them at risk. They're already at risk. Um, and then taking the steps, like I already mentioned, the roof knocks, the texting, the calls, the leaflets, trying to evacuate people to minimize as much civilian damage as possible. Those are things that alert the enemy to their presence and give them the chance to escape, and also let them know that they're coming. So that also puts them in further, risk as well. But um I think that Dave holds um them to a standard that is more extreme. Let me play a little bit more.
But what I'm trying to find out from you is, you say police action, and that's we had this debate, but not face to face, where we exchanged videos on this, right? And we talked about Native American reservation, and you say police action. You've got 50,000 jihadi terrorists, jihadi as in willing to die for the cause. Is that fair? You shake your head.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any of us really know for sure. But yeah, I think the Israeli government was claiming something like that.
Are you disputing the numbers or the jihadism?
I just don't know. I don't know what the number of jihadists
So
who
it's
are
the
willing to die. I just don't know.
It's the number you're unsure about.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not the jihadi part. It's
no, there are jihadists, obviously.
They are prepared to die.
Yes, there are.
So you've got, can we say, just so that we do agree, like 40 to 50 or 30
I just, maybe sure.
Yeah, let's say
for
40
the sake of argument, sure.
40 to 50,000 people in a highly geographically concentrated area, tiny area, right? Tiny area, 50,000 people with pretty sophisticated weaponry, actually. IEDs everywhere, booby traps everywhere, anti-tank missiles, sniper rifles. This is a militarized terrorist organization. Do you really think you can deal with that in a police action?
Well, I think you can certainly deal with it with targeted assassinations, special operations, the way Israel's dealt with their terrorism problem for their entire existence.
But how do you police 50,000 armed jihadis? How do you deal with that as a police action? Imagine you had the Native Americans. They were pretty badass boys when you guys first came here. Imagine you had 50,000 of them in Manhattan, right? And they just went on a slaughtering and raping and rampage, right? And then you're going, let's send in the cops. I don't know that there's anyone who thinks that's realistic.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know.
But tell me how that's realistic. I'm open to it.
So, yeah, I some of the conversations that Dave Smith is having is just really nonsensical to me. Sorry, but you guys know I'm sick, so I started getting that little itch in my throat. I had a little coughing. So, even the Native American example, like doing different studying, I know, I was like in the Dakotas, in like the 1800s, because it's like during the Civil War. There was Native Americans that were like on this reservation, and they kept taking land, from them, and they just weren't in like great conditions, and they ended up leading it like a revolt and killing a bunch of Americans. And this is during the Civil War, but they're like, we got to send people to take care of them, and they took care of them, and they, weren't just like, let's police these people. They handled them. So Dave's ideas about how Israel should be handling this are so I don't know, it seems really unfair, and I don't know his motivation as to why they're so picked on. And because I don't think that Dave is motivated by the same things like as Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes. Um, but I do think he's like a moral idiot. um, maybe he's just I don't know, really ignorant, but I don't know. But as far as like the going back to like the IDF and them they're putting their soldiers at risk, and they should be putting their soldiers at risk. Everybody has to serve. And so when the IDF was talking about everybody serving and kind of like an oath and a promise that they make to the parents, like, because these kids, they graduate high school, they go join the military to do their time, to serve. I think it's like 2 years or whatever that they have to serve. So they get out of high school, they go, serve their country in that way. And the agreement that they make with their parents is like, you like lend your children to us for like the good of our nation, and we're going to do our best to take care of them. So Dave Smith basically having this attitude of like, well, they just have to lay their lives on the line, to set these impossible sort of standards, even at the risk of their own life that they might die. I just think it's unreasonable, because Israel has a duty to their people and the civilians, their own civilians, to protect them. They have an obligation to try, if they start a war, that they should be trying to win it. Like, why would you start a war to lose or come to a draw? Like, you want to meet your objectives when you begin a war. And if it's an unwinnable war, like, is it ethical to even start it? Like, if your objective isn't to win, to some kind of greater aim for security and peace for your people. So they have an obligation to win. They do have like a more responsibility to limit civilian casualties, which they do. But Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson have this attitude of, well, they're so good at targeted strikes, like with the beeper attacks, that is just like not possible for them to mess up and accidentally hit a church. And they're like him. And Tucker Carlson said, "Oh, they didn't even apologize for it," which isn't true. There's literally like an apology. You can go look it up. That they issued an apology about it. But they're if you ask them about that, they're like embarrassed for that happened. They feel, bad that happened, and they say there's no excuse for it. They're like, there's no excuse for that. You ask people about that over there, like, there's no excuse for it. But they're not like, yeah, we did. No one has attitude like, yeah, we kill these people on purpose. I promise you, they do not want to kill civilians. They do not want to kill civilians. This attitude that Dave Smith and like Tucker Carlson are trying to like push upon them is just not the reality if you go there and talk to the people like on the ground. But they do have an obligation to win and protect their own. And these are, I'm looking at these soldiers, like, they just look like babies. Like, think about, I mean, I'm in my 30s. So like someone who's like 18 looks young. Like, people thought I was surprised to learn like I'm 36 years old. But, I know what I looked at, like that I still look like a baby or whatever when I was, 18 or whatever. you know, or when I look at kids in high school or whatever, or fresh out of high school, they look really young, like little babies to me. And I'm like, these are kids who are serving right now, who could go and die, and they don't do it on a voluntary basis. They all have to do it. So there's just different stakes. So Dave Smith, preaching on his high horse in the US, I don't think he's been to that region at all. And he has the means to do so. So that's kind of interesting, fascinating that he talks about this stuff all the time, but he's not intellectually curious enough to go on the ground and investigate it. Like, I didn't have the means to like go up and just be like, oh, let me go to Israel, whatever. I'm very grateful to CUFI, and I'm very grateful to others, some of you supporters who also, helped with different costs, that they didn't cover. But he has the means to get up and go and investigate and stuff, and talk to these people and many of them want to. Like the person who in the kibbutz, he's like, I want to go to the US. I want to talk to these people. He's like, but I don't want to just talk to people in synagogues and church. He's like, I want to go to talk to people in the mosque. Like, I want to share my perspective with people who disagree with me, who don't understand. And I'm like, that's sweet. I don't know if they'll have you. but they want to tell their story, and they want people to see, and they want to share their perspective, because they're so convinced that if they can talk to people, that they will change hearts and minds about it. That's why there are people at different organizations that are willing to take people over to Israel, because they're like, well, if they just see and they talk to people, they'll understand it and they'll get it. And I don't know if that's the case for everybody. They're not, well, there's certainly people who are going to still, have their opinions or whatever if they go. And they just have there's a lot of dishonest actors out there. But there's a lot of people who are ignorant. And I would like to think that Dave was just ignorant, and he knows a lot of things that are not so, and is a bit of a moral idiot. Tucker Carlson knows better. I don't know what totally is the deal with Candace. Some days I'm like, she knows what she's doing, and other days I'm like, maybe there's some madness involved. I'm not sure. I could tell you though, going to the Jewish quarters, it is so dumb that she thought they were like segregated like Jim Crow South. It's so dumb. It's so dumb that, and I don't know if she actually went into like the Jewish quarters and Muslim quarters and all that stuff. I don't know. But it's just areas where people live and they shop and they, and there's like Muslim bakeries that you can smell their bread and different, stuff that has kosher stuff, or, everybody's like working together, living together, and so on. And just because there's certain neighborhoods where, the the Jewish quarter, Muslim quarter, or whatever, it doesn't mean that people have to live in those areas and they're segregated like forced by law or something. But she's like brought it up as if that was the case. And it's just, if you've been to that area and walked up all those stairs, you just know that it's just so dumb. And our tour guide certainly brought her up, and people were laughing about it and laughing at her. But some things you don't know unless you're there, or you heard from someone who you trust who's on the ground. So I definitely learned a lot. I would love to keep talking, but I don't know if I'm gonna have if my frankly, if my voice is up for it. So there's so many political things that have been happening in the past 2 weeks. Because I haven't been on for like 2 weeks. Because before I went to Israel, I also went to Orlando for a conference, and it was about how to combat anti-Semitism. Seth Dillon from the Babylon Bee was a speaker. Officer Brandon Tatum was there. He was a speaker one night, and Ami Kozak did a bit, like a comedy bit, and he was also doing like a panel and stuff. And there were other speakers. It was a really cool event as well, and that was 2 days, a jam-packed 2 days. Oh my gosh. And as soon as I got home, we got home on Saturday pretty late, and Sunday we had church, and I had to get the rest of my stuff back together. And then Monday I had a flight, to JFK at 7, I think was my flight. And then then we had to meet each other at like 1 at JFK, and that we flew out at 5:00 to Israel. The security was interesting. At the Israeli airline, they were asking, like, really grilling you, like, did you have your suitcase the whole time? Did you pack this? And did you put a bomb in here? Like, what are you here for? How many followers do you have? What's the name of your account? When I was coming home from Israel, they're like, oh, that's an interesting name. Where's it from? What does it mean? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And then the person I was with, they're like, you don't know like where it comes from. I'm like, no, I don't know where it comes from. Like, it's probably a name that the slave master gave my ancestors. I don't know. And so they like end up like giving me my passport back or whatever. And then I go to the next part to like drop off my luggage, and they look at my passport and they're like, passport's fine, but there's just something I gotta check. And they leave and they come back and they're asking me all these questions. They're like, who write down your address, who's your emergency contact, like right, what's their name, what's their phone number. And so I'm like texting my family, I'm like, I think the airport's about to call you guys to make sure like that you're real. And so I'm like, is my name like interesting or something? Like, is it unusual? And they're just kind of nodding, and they're pronouncing it as bear instead of bar. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, is this some red flag or something in the Middle East that I don't know about? And they put some kind of sticker or something on my passport that they kept flagging or whatever. So when they sent me through security, they sent me in a line where they had to check everything that I had on my carry-on. They probably opened up my dropped off bag or whatever. I don't know. But as far as my carry-on, I had to take everything like out my backpack, everything out of my my toiletry bag, and they had a device where they're like scanning everything, like rubbing it against my portable charger and going through my makeup kits and like everything. I'm like, what? Why? What did I do that set this off? And I'm like, we gotta research more on my name. I guess I wish I had just said the slave master gave it to my ancestors and just see where it would have went from there. But they I think I definitely took the longest in security that when we were leaving Israel. And then before you get on the plane, they check the stuff too. Now, when I went to the Philippines, there was a bunch of security checks and stuff too. Um I can't, in that took a while. Like we could have missed our plane. They took so many times. And then there was like a sign that was like, "This is your last security check," and it wasn't the last security check. But they're intense. They're really intense. Really, really intense. Which is funny because Ami made a joke about it, like, in his set. And I'm like, "Oh gosh, I wonder if I'm gonna experience this." And I did. I did. So, let me, see if I got some pictures I could show really quick. Um, I downloaded some of them. Oh, I didn't download a lot of them, but, let's see. If you read, John chapter 21, this is a spot that we were at. This was a cool beach, and I did like if you like move the sand, there's a bunch of like little teeny seashells. So I did pick up some so I could take back home, and I'm gonna ask my sister to make like a necklace out of some of them and give them to I have some of my nieces, but maybe there's enough for my sisters and stuff because I got quite a few. I was so busy collecting shells. That's the most that I was doing. So I took a few pictures at the site, but we just did a Bible study, women's Bible study, and actually led going through John. So this is the last chapter, that location, with Jesus being with his disciples once again. So that's pretty neat. Let me show, and again, when I go like day by day, I'll show a lot more images, and I have a lot of videos. But I didn't want to show too much because there'll be more to come. That's the Sea of Galilee. Look how beautiful and calm it is. Just really, really amazing, really beautiful. Um, I wish everybody could kind of experience like the little worship session that we had. It was really amazing, and it was something that I really needed. So I'm really appreciative of from Kufai, and to everybody who like also helped me get there. I know I wasn't very specific when I talked about it on my lives and stuff, because I just anybody watches, and I just didn't want to just to say something that might jeopardize my security or whatever. So I there was an email that I sent out that had some more details on it that I guess that I sent to some people who had donated stuff in the past who might have been willing to support. It was funny because one person didn't appreciate it, I guess, and they're like, Israel, LOL, like don't contact me again, and you need to repent. And I'm like, even if you don't like what's going on in Israel and the Gaza war or what, I don't know what reason someone might have all of them to feel the way that they felt. Um, it's still like the Holy Land where there's all these religious sites from the Bible. So one way or another, it's a cool place to go if you were a believer. So saying you need to repent, like you don't even know why I'm going, like who invited me, you know. Um, I as far as like Israel theology, I don't even talk about that stuff. Like when I talk about Israel and what's going on in the Middle East, I'm talking about like the politics of it. And I am like fascinated because to me it seems like pretty obvious that Israel is in the right with to defend themselves, to preserve, you know, their people and doing what they need to do. And to me it's very strange how many people don't seem to get that or how unfair they're treating Israel compared to like other nations or whatever. So it's fascinating to talk about it. And then of course there's, you know, crazy conspiracies from Candace and commentary from Tucker and other folks like that will chime in. But I don't know. I don't know. I just don't feel like I have extreme opinions on this thing in the least bit. This is a picture of the Dead Sea. Oh, I got some funny stories. Some awkward stories. I was definitely the klutz on this trip, but so many beautiful shots. And I feel like that picture is really pretty, but everything was so beautiful. Like I don't feel like pictures kind of do it justice. Like you know the song oh Purple Mountains Majesty. Some like America the Beautiful. Like there's like purple mountains majesty, like and it was just so pretty, and like and you could see, I guess, as a view of like Jordan over there. um you know, and people were like rubbing mud and stuff because that's like fresh like minerals or whatever, like pure minerals in the mud. I did not rub mud on myself. That was just kind of not my thing. um Here's another image of me in Jerusalem right there. And this is me in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I think I got one more I downloaded. So on Monday, I'll start to roll out more particular videos in a more kind of interesting format than me just kind of talking right at you guys. And I'm so grateful for the people that I went with, because I was really concerned about whether or not I would like the people in the group, whether they would annoy me, because you know we're like with strangers for all this time, all these hours, you know, on buses and airplanes and hotels, and I knew I was gonna have like my own room and whatever, but you know, it was just a lot of time to spend with people that you don't like, and the group was so great, so I was so grateful. And I think those are going to be friendships that last a long while. Like we're still texting each other today because we all are still on Israeli time. And I actually woke up at I went to bed at 7 last night and I woke up at 1 p.m. So I've been up a long time today. And hopefully I can kind of rearrange my body. But that's me at the Western Wall. So I just had a great time. I had a great time. So Um, yeah, I'm really grateful for the experience, and I'm glad to make some more content, share some more content about it. And it was really really nice. My sister asked if I was glad to be home, and I'm like, I definitely could have did some more stuff, seen some more stuff. I'm like, but we did a lot over the past couple days, and I'm like, we would have needed a day of rest or whatever because it was just kind of nonstop, especially um those first couple days. I mean, the whole time it was nonstop, but like we did so much like walking and stuff in Jerusalem and like so many slopes and valleys and things like that. So it was and I took a pretty bad fall and stuff too, but I'll talk more about that later in my like blog. Um I was like definitely the klutz of the trip. I don't consider myself to be a klutz, but maybe my sister I was talking to my sister Tina about it, and she's like, I just think we're kind of klutzy. And I'm like, well, maybe that's just the case. And so maybe I'm not the klutz when I'm around other klutzy people, but among these people, I was definitely the klutz of the trip. And so I had some bruises to testify to that. But I live to tell the tale. I live to tell the tale. So I look forward to sharing my videos of the survivors and some of the you know I have a video of the man who led us around the city of David to tell some pretty fascinating biblical stuff, and just all kinds of amazing things that happen on the trip. So anyway, Monday I'll start post my plan. That's my plan, to start posting some of these blogs. Um, and it'll be like day 1 in Israel, day 2 in Israel, day 3 in Israel. And so I'm gonna try not to make them more than like 20 minutes a piece, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully they're not even that long each, but I get that we just did a lot of things, and I do have a lot of B-roll. The thing about being an influencer though is so many times you're trying to capture the moment that you're not always like at present enough in the moment. And some of the best moments I would love to share with you guys, I don't have video of that. Like I have to go and look at my group chat or whatever to see if there's other moments that I missed that other people maybe captured. But like some of the unless you're like going around with a film crew to kind of capture those moments while you can still be like in your own kind of world, like it's just kind of it's just hard, and you're learning all this information, you're listening and you're trying to take photos, and there's more things I wish I could have taken notes on. My next like if I ever went to Israel with our church or something, we'd have to be like, okay, you're the picture person and you're gonna be the note taker and you're this and that. I mean, there's just so much to learn, so much to see. And we are visiting so many sites that sometimes it's like, okay, you get 10 minutes for photos here, 15 minutes for videos here. And there was always like this kid Blake who was like lagging behind. They're like, where's Blake? Because he's taking his Gen Z kind of photos and videos or whatever. And I was someone who I had a selfie stick. I had like a tripod or whatever. And they're just like, man, you have all the stuff. And the tour guide asked Peter, he was like, are you the selfie stick queen? I'm like, I haven't used this in a long time. I forgot that I had it. And then I just like needed different equipment. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that selfie stick. So it definitely came in handy for sure. And there's a lot that I've captured, and I wish I could have shared it more, I guess, with you guys. And I wish my family was there as well. There were some times where I did actually like just call them like over Messenger on Facebook, and to share the view and where I was at. Like when I was at in Jerusalem at one point, I'm like, oh gosh, look at this. And they're just like, that's really nice, but it's 6 in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And I wanted to call them when I was out in the Sea of Galilee, but that was that probably would have been like 4 in the morning, I think. And so I just wish we could have shared some more of those experiences together. It was difficult at some points when I was like, especially when I first got there, and I'm like, thinking about, oh, I want to tell my family about it. And the last time I was out of the country, I got homesick really bad, and I had to call home and talk to like everybody. And I wasn't like homesick real bad or anything like this time around, but there's just kind of thoughts like I want to call my mom and talk to her about this stuff and just tell her about some of these experiences that I'm having. And I wasn't able to do that. So I was there was some sad things, still wrestling with, but it was still spiritually just so good to go. There's so much I learned, so much I got to see. And I can't wait I'm going to Bible study tonight to talk about this stuff. I'm so excited to talk about some of this stuff and the Bible just really coming to life. So regardless of how you feel about the politics, it's just good to go to some of these sites. You know, it's I just can't recommend it enough. And I'm really grateful, and I'm excited to keep sharing my experiences with you guys. So that's a little bit about what's going on. I know there's a lot of other things going on in the world, like the Epstein files and Candace getting beef with Allie Beth Stuckey. I saw that. I saw a bit about Megyn Kelly and she had that live tour with Tucker and Ben, and I did some TikToks about that. But I definitely still have more thoughts. I have more thoughts about Tucker saying our values are based off the New Testament, which I think isn't for nefarious reasons. Because you can't some of these principles that he's uplifting are things that you definitely still learn in the Old Testament, but he and Candace don't want to talk about Judeo-Christian values, and they want to. There's this effort to separate Christians and Jews, while also like downplaying the threat of Islamic fundamentalism. And I'm trying to articulate it the best way that I can. I'm like working on some articles right now. I'm gonna do some long form videos. There's just a lot to do, and I know I'm kind of behind because I was like not here for a couple days. But we'll jump into the news. There's some different stories that have been going on that I've been covering a little bit online, like on TikTok and posting some stuff on Facebook. But I look forward to tackling those news stories and different things. So I don't plan to talk about the Israel stuff on the stream tomorrow or Friday or whatever. I'm gonna try to save the stuff for the different blogs. People can watch them if in those details, and I'll be posting like some other short form videos or whatever on TikTok, I guess, and then posting on Facebook and YouTube Shorts and so on. So just keep on the lookout for that. Make sure you guys are subscribed and hitting the notification bells and all that sorts of stuff for those sorts of updates. So thank you guys so much. You guys can go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream, run my site, all that good stuff. If you guys can support, I very much appreciate you guys. If you guys can, please check out my book, Bigger. There's one behind me right here. But I got hardcover right here. Make sure you guys put in an order if you want to get one for someone that for Christmas. You want to make sure that you guys can get it. So go ahead and you guys can go to ninjadustpublishing.com and pick it up. And you guys can there's a link if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, which I know, I'm sorry, the Facebook link went out for some reason that I don't understand. But there's a link, and there's also a link to the painting party. There's supposed to be one on Saturday and on Sunday for web on the web. So go ahead and check out that link and buy a ticket. So you guys can do the painting party with me and Tina and stuff. And so I'd love to see some of you guys in person. If you guys can participate in that. So there's a link to that as well. And it should be a good time. So thank you for your wonderful messages you wrote to my grandsons and Bigger. And thank you so much for getting it. And if you could, I'd appreciate if you left a review on Amazon. There's some good reviews or whatever already coming in for it, but I just appreciate if you could do that for me. And thank you for buying it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to make sure I can Tina gets all her monies for illustrating that for me so she can move on to the next project, which will be about a crab. So she'll be able to make some beautiful illustrations about that. So I look forward to the next project. And anyway, I'm gonna let my voice rest, and I will see you guys on tomorrow. Hopefully, I can talk and I won't get the little tickle in my throat. I definitely had a little bit of a coughing fit, but that's just hopefully I'll be better, all better by then. I was concerned of whether I'd be able to talk because my throat just felt very tired last night, even early this morning. And then I'm like, my sister's like, "Oh, you sound better." I did sound better. And but I don't know, after a while, just talking like nonstop for like an hour or whatever, you just you know. So I hate the colds. I don't know what triggered. I guess it could have just been a lack of sleep. I had a hard time adjusting. And then we'd have our long day. And I know I'm doing the Preacher 5 closing things. I'm really sorry. But we'd have a long day, and then we go to like the hotel, and then I would make a TikTok. Well, we eat or whatever. And I do a TikTok. And in the midst of me editing the TikTok, before I'm like, okay, I made it and I started editing it, and I'm kind of ready to post it, and I just need to put in like the metadata or whatever. I fall asleep before I post. I fall asleep. And then I wake up maybe like an hour later or an hour and a half later. And then I finish posting the TikTok. And then I get in the shower. And then I'm like wide awake. And the first night it was really bad trying to get some sleep. And I just laid there for a while. I tried I prayed for a while, and that wasn't doing a dent. And so I remembered, I'm like, well, when I was watching this anime, it was Jujutsu Kaisen. Um, when I was on the plane, at one point, it was hard for me to stay awake. So I'm like, maybe if I start watching this anime, I will fall asleep. So I put on the anime, and then I got really tired and I fell asleep. And every day we get on the bus, and they were like, okay, raise your hand if you slept more than 6 hours. And eventually more people kept raising their hands, and I was like the only person who wasn't raising their hands. We're like, Christina, why aren't you getting sleep? And I'm like, and so the last day, people at this point noticed that I'm sick, and people are giving me different like Dayquil and different things like that, NyQuil and so on. And some things that were stronger, like these vitamin C kind of like boosts of things. And they're like, take this stuff, go to sleep. Do not make TikToks tonight. Go to sleep. And so I washed my hair because I had got baptized that day. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wash my hair. And I just washed it and blow dried it. I didn't like straighten it or whatever. Because that takes up some time too. And so I made sure that by the time I got in the bed, and by the time I was gonna get up, because I started putting some stuff away, but I was gonna finish doing my packing whatever in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have 6 hours. And I kept I set an alarm, but I would also call my sisters, be like, hey, can you wake me up at this time, your time? Like it was like 11 or midnight or whatever, to wake me up at like 7 or 6:30 or whatever. And they're like, okay. I knew that I was gonna have exactly 6 hours to sleep. And then my dad calls me, and it's 5 in the morning. Now, I just ignored his call and went back to sleep, but I'm like, "Really, Dad?" And so and I was able to go back to sleep for a little while, but I'm like, "This is the first night I was gonna solidly have that 6 hours, and I just couldn't get it." The only time that I think I slept 6 hours on the plane. I don't that wasn't, I think it was a consecutive, like, 5 hours. Um, So I guess there's that. But I'm still on Israeli time. I finally got adjusted to it, and now I'm home. So again, I've been up since like 1 in the morning. So hopefully tonight I will go to sleep at like 10 and wake up at 7. Well, now 10's kind of early. I don't know. I assume I'll be really tired by 10 o'clock. I don't know. Just pray for me. Just pray for me. Anyway, God bless you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow.